Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and I know I'm late to the party, but I just had to make my own build with the Rime-Coat Raiment, the newest exotic armor for the Warlock in Destiny 2, and this has essentially replaced the Osmiomancy gloves as my go-to for stasis builds in my arsenal right now. It is insanely good, and I very much enjoy it. I was using this during the Festival of the Lost, Haunted Lost Sectors, which you can now do on Expert through Fireteam Finder if you don't have a crew, which I definitely recommend because the rewards are significantly better if you do that. But anyway, let me just talk about the build, starting off with the armor perk for the Rime-Coat Raiment called Bleak Domain. Your Bleak Watcher turrets are enhanced with extended range and are surrounded by stasis crystals and a storm. While standing in the storm, you are granted icicles over time. Icicles activate when you fire weapons, applying slow to targets they hit. Now, if you wait a little bit and get those icicles on you, then you can provide slow relatively easy, no matter what weapon you're using, to hit targets. Keep that in mind. I am rocking the Lunalata with this. I know a lot of people will use like an AR or something, but I find this with Headstone, you can freeze and slow very often, especially if you're hitting your headshots. This combines well with some of the artifact perks this season as well. Also got on the Truth Teller. This is going to have the disorienting grenades when you have like champions and everything like that, or harder targets. It's very nice. Plus with the artifact perk, you can weaken those champions and boss type enemies, mini bosses, all that kind of good stuff, which is very, very nice. And then finally, I'm rocking Winter Bite. This is going to give me some extra freeze. I know a lot of people aren't running this right now, but I think it's very good, especially with a build that focuses on frost armor and healing. So because of that, I can use this to take down those pumpkinhead enemies really easily with a projectile and then just straight up melee with the Winter Bite. As far as the subclass, I am rocking standard stasis for this. I was going to use the prismatic subclass, but I felt like I was using so much of the stasis subclass anyway. I wanted to fully lean into that. I do have on Dustfield Grenade, but this doesn't really matter. This is just for the lower cooldown, so that way you can rock out with the Bleak Watcher, which is obviously mandatory for the build with the Raiment-Coat Raiments. So you're going to hold it to convert into a stasis turret, which is very nice, and you should be aware of that because of Osmiomancy anyway. But I'm also using Glacial Harvest, so freezing targets creates the stasis shards around frozen targets. Higher tier combatants create more shards. Now, the nice thing about this, while Glacial Harvest is equipped, picking up stasis shards grants stacks of frost armor. This is massive and will allow you to get that bonus to damage resist with the frost armor quite a bit. And Whisper of Bonds, which defeating frozen targets generates Orb of Power. So you get the stasis shards, you get Orbs of Power generating all of that. Plus shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge. It also, with the current artifact perks, will do extra damage and then slow enemies as well. And then shattering additional stasis crystals increases the duration. Whisper of Chains, defeating targets while you have frost armor, has a chance to create a stasis shards. You're going to be destroying a lot of them. That's why I want Headstone. That's why I want to freeze targets with my Winter Bite. And then also the Whisper of Torment, so you gain grenade energy each time you take damage from targets. Having frost armor increases the amount of energy gained. I want my Bleak Watcher up all the time. I want my frost armor up all the time, and this combines really well to do that. As far as the artifact perks that are really important, you've got Brain Freeze, so that way frozen combatants become surrounded by Chilling Frog, which slows combatants that aren't already, which is nice. Then you've got the Served Cold, so your stasis charge you're generating anyway grants you class ability energy. You can get up close and personal between frost armor and your rift and just absolutely melee every one of those big pumpkin heads down very, very quickly. Then we got Armor of Aramis. I'm going to have frost armor a lot, so I'm going to take critical damage from enemies and cause that freezing burst. Then we've got the Hail the Storm. This is so the stasis crystals release the shards of ice, so damage and slow. And then Concussive Reload. This is another benefit to having the grenade launcher, so I can weaken champions, any kind of boss, and then also break combatant shields to weaken them as well. Wind Chill is nice, so rapid stasis weapon precision hits grants you a stack of frost armor. This is relatively easy with a bow. You can just hit them a couple times and this will proc. Then we've got Crystalline Converter. Again, this is why I wanted to focus on stasis specifically, because I'm using the stasis grenade already, and I want to use the stasis melee, so that way I can generate additional stasis crystals to break to get those stasis shards and continue that loop. If you need to, make sure you have on the overload grenade launcher for this. Very nice. You can swap out for a anti-barrier scout rifle and use a wicked implement or something like that instead of Lunalana, but this is just my preference for this build, and because you're freezing and slowing so much, you don't have to worry about the champions all that often. You're able to defeat them really quickly, especially if you're not like 30 light level underpowered. As far as the mods go, I would rock a heavy ammo finder, so extra winter bite, which is nice. Then you've got something like the stasis siphon, dynamo, stasis loader, impact induction, grenade kickstart. So whatever resistance you need. Loosened blade, don't forget, does work with glaives. It says that your equipped glaives gain more energy from dealing damage with their range attack. If you need to use your shield a little bit more often than I was in this gameplay, that comes in handy quite a bit. And then we've got stasis reserves, double weight stasis weapon surge, and better already. And then distribution reaper and powerful attraction, because I am dropping my rift all the time to grab those orbs that I am generating. Now, as far as the gameplay loop, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to start off by dropping your Bleak Watcher and then start pinging enemies with your bow or your grenade launcher. And then from there, once a bigger enemy spawns, whether it's a mini boss or a champion or something like that, that's when you're really going to want to use the Winter Bite, start destroying all the crystals around you, and freeze the enemy, slow the enemy, do a bunch of damage, go in for the melee kill, and it's just a nice little loop there that you can do pretty continuously. Overall, I find this to be incredibly fun. I feel like Winter Bite is one of those that's not really used all that often. People don't really like it, especially when you're not able to boost its damage. It might not be the highest damage type of weapon in the game, and it doesn't really work as well against certain bosses, but because you can send out its orb of freezing, then it still comes in handy because it will slow those bosses as well, and you're already weakening them with your grenade launcher, and you can just do a lot of damage. And then honestly, you can save your super for whenever is necessary. It's not really a vital part of this kit, so because of that, that's the only reason I considered swapping this for prismatic, is so that way I could have like a Nova Bomb or something like that as well, but it just doesn't generate as many of the frost armor stacks that I would like with this build to make me feel like a glaive wielding tank, which is incredibly fun on the Warlock for me. The healing is incredible because of the rift. The frost armor is very nice. You're getting a lot of bonuses from that, and it all just synergizes very well. Once again, if you want to swap out the bow for like a auto rifle, that is very viable as well. And then you can also swap around the Winter Bite if you need to, and swap it out for maybe like a Wicked Implement primary or something like that. But either way, this is a good foundation. Essentially, as long as you're using your Bleak Watcher, you're generating those stasis crystals and stasis shards, you're getting frost armor all the time, then you're also weakening enemies and bosses. That's the whole key to this build, and something that you really want to kind of focus on with regards to harder content, more expert level content, if you are struggling at all. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like the video as always, comment, subscribe. My name is Jopa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.